Now go.
To what extent does freedom of religion belong in the public education system?
Religion in the public school system can be dangerous when pushed too far, which could result in a political and economic argument, plus strain on the government and unethical force of religious education on the student, and possibly going against that student's personal beliefs and morals that they have in their day-to-day life. A study by Robert Baer and Rachel McCleary shows that higher church attendance suppresses growth because it signifies greater use of the resources by the religious sector. This means that the more religious influence in schools, the worse the economy will be. If this happens, the U.S. will face massive economic decline similar to the Great Depression. Also, in this graph, it shows that the more religious a country is, the worse off its economy is, as shown by Ghana, which is the most religious country in the world, but has the second worst economy, and Hong Kong, which is the third richest in the world, but is very not religious. Also, can schools even afford it? Religious teachers are paid $33,820 on average, but schools already have a limited budget. If they have to pay these teachers, it could lead to budget cuts for all teachers or some teachers getting cut. Also, the average wage in 2018 is $59,829 in the U.S. If a job is offered that is over $20,000 below average wage, will people even take the job?
So what does the government say? Under the United States Constitution, it says Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting free exercise of thereof. This is where the famous paraphrasing of Thomas Jefferson comes from, separation of church and state. The picture depicts people like building a figurative wall between church and Congress, and this shows that both ideas can be respected, but since public school is ran by the government, it has no place, religion has no place in public school. Supreme Court cases. Abnegation School District versus Shemp. This was in Pennsylvania in 1962, and it was about a religious issue that was required by Pennsylvania state law. They had to say a prayer every day before school. It went to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court said it was unconstitutional, and they made Pennsylvania change their law. Murray versus Kirtland is almost a carbon copy of the Shemp case, except that it was in Maryland and it was in 1963. Maryland required schools to say the Lord's Prayer every day before school. Murray was unhappy because she didn't believe that religion had a place in public school, so she took them to court and went up to the Supreme Court, and the ruling was that Maryland's state law was unconstitutional and they required them to change it. So the picture you see here is a cartoon depicting secularism. Secularism is the separation of religion and government, and it is the way that the world is going today, since more and more people are becoming less religious. So people are moving away from religion, and this would satisfy everyone's needs because you do not need religion in a public education. If you want a religious education, you can get that privately. And also, a lot of religious laws are based off of ethics, and a lot of laws are based off of ethics. And those two laws, the religious laws and the governmental laws, the political laws can create some friction with each other because they can go against one another.
Since there are over 4,000 different religions to choose from in today's world, there are bound to be some differences between practices, beliefs, and some values, such as when Catholics choose not to eat meat on Fridays, or Muslim women wearing hijabs every day. If public school denied these varieties of these students, they would be denying the students' right to express themselves freely in the religion of their choice. Also, public schools are non-religious for a reason. They are not permitted to enforce a specific religion on any of their students, as it would create major controversy in the classroom, along with teachers not being able to persuade or bias their religion to their students as well. Every U.S. citizen in the United States is given the freedom of religion based on the First Amendment of the U.S. Constitution. This allows all U.S. citizens to practice the religion they choose and based on their personal beliefs. According to the chart The majority of the U.S. population identifies their religion as a form of Christianity. And although this is true, there are many other religions spread throughout the U.S., including Judaism and Islam. And based on the U.S. Constitution, all of these religions are accepted, and therefore the public schools cannot stop students from practicing any of these specific religions.
Some school risks that can affect is when a teacher teaches a religion, it can become very risky because it can come out as biased, untruthful, or false leading to the students that do believe in that religion, which can become very on soft ground because you don't want to inform a religion that is not always truthful or can be biased in many ways. And a curriculum too in-depth about religion can affect the ones that don't believe in a religion. So you don't want a curriculum that informs too much when many students do not believe and it goes against their morals and values, which also falls into ethics because that can affect their personal beliefs. And when you put religion too far in, it can affect the dynamic of the school and the students. And going into more detail, this can affect the way students view each other differently or negatively after what was taught and learned about a religion that maybe another peer practices. Society's view, freedom is a religion and it's purely a right, but you shouldn't force that right onto other people, especially if they don't believe it. And you definitely shouldn't force it just right into an education system. And on to your right, there is a poll vote. And the poll vote survey was 1,000 American citizens in 2015 took it, and 95% of people wish to have the freedom to worship with others who share the faith. And this can reveal that people feel segregated, condemned, and separated when it comes to expressing their religion. But you also don't want to force that onto others again, but there's a place for where you can come together, and there's also a place where you shouldn't, and school is definitely where you shouldn't come together. And our overall counter was students should be able to express themselves as long as not disrupting others. And it's important because you should allow people to express themselves. That's important to them, but not for it to disrupt or interrupt another person's life. And students should not feel condemned or judged when representing their religion when coming to school. Religion has played such an important role in shaping America's purpose, politics, economy, and citizens' social lives. And no student should feel denounced in school because of their clothing, hair, skin beliefs, or practices that they are followed by their religion. And also, on your left, there's a graph, and it reflects that students' behavior during school is proven to be affected by their religious practices or beliefs. And 41.7% have no frequency of children's religious practices. So 41.7% never have religious practices or participate in that, and they are the highest to get in trouble in the education system, such as at school.
So, one possible solution would be offer a religion class as an elective, for example, a class on Islam. The problem with this is that you have to hire more teachers, so this would create more taxes, and schools would have to fight for a tax levy, and people don't like giving out money. So this could create some economic and some political backlash.
Another solution is to offer courses that revolve around religion but don't teach it into the curriculum, such as AP Human Geography. A limitation to this would be it is not culturally acceptable to teach religion in public schools.
A third solution would be to just not offer religion at all, but it's unethical to just disallow students to learn about a big portion of world history since religion is the main driver for a lot of events in world history. And then here are all of our sources.
Okay, Jack, I'm going to start with you. So, in what way did you improve your ability to work with a group as a result of this project?
I think I learned how to trust my teammates more because we can always rely on each other to make sure work was done, even though we all had tight schedules. And we just understood that if something wasn't done yet, someone was busy and they would get to it as soon as they were done.
Okay, thank you. Jenna, this is for you. So what was the strongest counter argument to the solution or conclusion that your team identified, and why?
I think one of the strongest was probably the graph because it shows that more less religious students get more in trouble at school, which is definitely a big part because we don't want disruptions at school, and the fact that they're especially not religious, I think is a big counter to that.
Okay, thank you. Alexis, having finished your project, what, if anything, do you consider to be a gap in your team's research that, if addressed, would make you feel more confident in your conclusion? You want me to repeat?
Yes.
Having finished your project, what, if anything, do you consider to be a gap in your team's research that, if addressed, would make you feel more confident about your conclusion?
We could have included like how it affects people one-on-one, so maybe some first-hand accounts about how religion affects certain people's day-to-day lives, and that would relate to the social and cultural aspect.
Thank you. And then finally, Nathan, how did the group decide to include Jenna's perspective or lens in the overall presentation?
Could you repeat the question?
Yeah, how did the group decide to include Jenna's perspective or lens into the overall presentation?
We decided to include Jenna's lens more as a counter because social could go both ways, but Jenna felt more confident with being the counter because she could find a lot more evidence than the other three of our lenses could to be a counter.
Okay, thank you.